country.
Yes. All right, let's get to the political news. A big battle between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton after Hillary said this about the Republican frontrunner on the topic of Muslim relations at the Democratic debate on Saturday night. Listen.
We also need to make sure that the really discriminatory messages that Trump is sending around the world don't fall on receptive ears. He is becoming ISIS's best recruiter. They are going to people showing videos of Donald Trump insulting Islam and Muslims in order to recruit more.
According to the folks at PolitiFact, there's no evidence of ISIS using Trump videos as a recruitment tool, and Trump isn't having it.
It's nonsense. It's just another Hillary lie. She lies like crazy about everything, whether it's trips where she was being gunned down in a helicopter or an airplane. She's a liar, and everybody knows that. I mean, but she just made this up in thin air.
Well, now it falls to Clinton communications chief Jennifer Palmieri to try to walk back her boss's remarks.
What Secretary Clinton was saying last night is that one of the many dangerous things about Donald Trump is that his hot rhetoric, saying we should not allow Muslim refugees into the country, is being used, and this is something that the SITE International Group has, who monitors social media and on ISIS, has said.
But there have been no videos.
Well, what they have said is that they are using him. He is being used in social media by ISIS as propaganda. She didn't have a particular video in mind, but he's being used in social media.
Wow. Humana, humana, humana. Someone bought some Maalox. That's a tough job because it's clear that Hillary Clinton went out there and again lied to the American public and blamed a video that didn't exist.
Shocker, right? I mean, Donald Trump should have mentioned that Benghazi YouTube, which we still know was a totally fabricated storyline out of the White House to detract away from what really happened in Benghazi. But the thing that's incredible to me is this has been the Democratic line since the whole idea that perhaps we should suspend the Syrian refugee program. So if you were a Republican presidential candidate and you said that, and by the way, you had 47 Democrats in Congress who agreed with you, you were now the best recruitment tool for ISIS. All of a sudden, Donald Trump takes it a little further, says the anti-Muslim ban. Hillary uses the same exact line President Obama used. I would say the best recruitment tool for ISIS is an American president without a strategy or the will to defeat them. This is a caliphate, a religiously driven group that believes in the divinity and supremacy of their mission. The Allah is on their side. So the only way you actually dispel them of that thought is by beating them, destroying them and defeating them, and that's not what we've been doing.
Well, and Hillary Clinton is the one that advocated for the ousting of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, Harris, and we know what happened after that. ISIS took control and arguably uses that country as a launching pad for attacks. We saw them doing swan dives, I believe it was, off our consulate there. I mean, she has actually empowered and assisted ISIS.
Yeah, we're going to get more into why she is backing her own strategy and so happy to be where we are in just a moment. But I will say this, you know, Seamus Hughes, who runs that extremist, he's an extremist expert, the Associated Press also saying they don't see any evidence of what she's talking about in Donald Trump. This is one of those things where she's probably going to have to prove it. Yeah. Like, she's probably going to have to prove it, or she's going to have to say something. Jennifer Palmieri, paychecks have better not stop coming. That girl took some incoming, I mean, boom, she's just taking it. But that's not the voice the American public wants to hear this from. These are really strong words at a time when these vicious savages want to kill us, kill anybody who lives the way we do. She needs some evidence on this one. And if she doesn't have it, I think she had better step up to the plate and say she's sorry.
Well, Katie, she downplayed the threat of ISIS at the debate. That's not true. The New York Times fact-checking a lot of the things that she said. We know that she's lied consistently, and she's got a credibility problem. I mean, her numbers aren't... they're not where they should be. Right. So how does this affect her campaign? I mean, Democrats just seem to believe whatever she says.
Well, I think it's important to point out that Carly Fiorina's been calling not Donald Trump, she's been calling Hillary Clinton a liar for months now. And when she said it a couple months ago, it was this huge deal, and she got, you know, cream for it in the press for saying it. But it's true. Hillary Clinton is a liar. But in this sense, do you remember when Hillary Clinton said that her enemies were Republicans? Yeah. She didn't say ISIS. She's making it more clear as she continues to talk about this issue that Republicans really are her main focus. focus and her enemy. She's blaming Donald Trump and the American political process as a whole for ISIS recruitment, rather than actually pointing out what the threat is and just simply talking about it in a bipartisan fashion. How are we going to deal with the problems? This isn't an issue that has to be political left and right. This is an issue she could talk about in the sense of a general election. But apparently, she just had to make stuff up to get her point across.
Well, we know, too, that she doesn't listen to the generals. I mean, maybe Sid, her friend Sid Blumenthal, gave her this information that she used on the video and other sources. But, Kat, this is a woman that we've seen. Not only is she incompetent because she couldn't protect our embassy, she, leading up to this, ignored emails, multiple requests from her friend for additional security. She wasn't able to do her job, so she's incompetent at best. Then, that night, she said that she could handle Benghazi with Leon Panetta. We know this. We didn't show up that night. The blood of 4 Americans is on her hands, and then she went and covered it up and blamed it on a video and allocated millions of dollars to Pakistan to take out apology ads based on a lie. I mean, this woman is a perpetual liar who's incompetent.
Right. I think that's why...
When did she get called out?
The debates are always on Saturdays or Fridays, I think, because she's so bad at it. She says bizarre stuff like ISIS is Donald Trump's fault. Remember when she said that Wall Street ties were because of 9/11? Or she's being very boring. I think they try to do whatever they can to make it so she has the least amount of scrutiny and they can just control what messages are going out there, because she does have a lot of skeletons in her closet. So many.
Yeah.
So many.
Well, Leslie Harris, you look at something like this, and you see that she's being called out by the New York Times and others, and you wonder how much longer can the Clinton lie machine, I mean, they've gotten away with it for a long time. When does it end?
Well, Donald Trump has a way of defending himself and coming out strong.
Maybe it stops now.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, we don't know what's coming next. If you were giving her some advice, Tony, I would imagine I could hear you saying these words. Yeah, we got to walk that back. Yeah, but anyway, we're going to walk it forward. And the hits keep coming from the weekend Democratic debate. And here's what Hillary Clinton said about the progress of the U.S. fight against ISIS.
We now finally are where we need to be. We have a strategy and a commitment to go after ISIS, which is a danger to us as well as the region.
Many of the Republican candidates pounced on those comments, saying they made the former Secretary of State appear out of touch.
With dead bodies in Paris, with dead bodies in San Bernardino, and with no plan from this administration about how to deal with it, we're finally where we need to be. I mean, Mrs. Clinton is Mrs. Happy Talk. And she just wants to happy talk her way to the presidency.
How did the American people supposed to feel when they feel as vulnerable as ever to these terrorist attacks, and you have a president and a leading contender for the Democratic primary arguing, oh, everything's going great, we've got this really good plan in place, and it's starting to work. They live in two different universes.
Incredible, honestly. Somehow a UN resolution about Syria puts us where we need to be. I think it is a reflection of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's belief that our foreign policy gets set by others, that she's gotten every single foreign policy challenge wrong. And no, Mrs. Clinton, we are not where we need to be.
Wow. Well, you know what? If you didn't get it there, maybe you'll get it here. A new Fox News poll indicates Americans say we are not where we need to be on taking out the Islamic State savages. Just 33% approve of President Obama's handling of the fight.
In 1976, Gerald Ford, in a presidential debate, made the claim that there was no Soviet domination of Eastern Europe, and that began the precipitous decline of his candidacy because it showed him as so out of touch on foreign policy. I think the same liability exists here for Secretary Clinton. Furthermore, while I think all these Republicans are right to begin to focus in on this, because this was a big gaffe. I mean, I know the media is trying to help her out a little bit, and some of her colleagues are rushing to say, well, she was referring specifically to the UN Security Council, which is in and of itself kind of esoteric nonsense. The reality is, it's more than what they're saying. Hillary Clinton was part of the policy of which the byproduct was ISIS. And as we decide that this is an intelligence failure or a military failure and the whole goal of the administration to withdraw, it's more than that. It was a diplomatic failure while she was Secretary of State to control Maliki, the Iraq president who was a Shiite, who then persecuted the Sunnis, who then ran and formed ISIS as a result.
Wow, that was a almost straight line.
Like that?
So on the Political Insiders on Fox Report on Sunday nights, we have two Democrats on set with me, and both of them agreed, Pat Caddell and Doug Schoen last night, that Hillary Clinton's sort of lean toward looking more like President Obama could be more and more in the coming days because she's worried about the early primary states. And she knows that if she doesn't, what are your thoughts?
Well, we've for months been talking about how Hillary Clinton's going to have to walk this line of not criticizing the administration while trying to prove how she's going to not be serving an Obama third term, right? So in this sense, she is towing the line of the administration by saying where we need to be. But when you look at President Obama's polling numbers on this issue of terrorism and overall his polling numbers on his approval of how he's handled national security, they're very low. So if she's going to choose something to criticize the administration about, it might be this, but then that puts the focus on her time at the State Department, what is the foreign policy record, the fact that she did work very closely with the White House on that foreign policy initiative, and it just, again, shows how out of touch she is. I mean, the FBI, this is not a foreign problem that is happening only in Iraq and Syria. The FBI in the United States has 1,000 open cases and pursuing leads on ISIS. I mean, this is a problem that affects people here, and that's what they're worried about.
Well, Andrea, it's interesting because if it's true that Hillary Clinton is sort of leaning toward the Barack Obama way of doing things so that she can build a better wall in those early primary states, which I can't even imagine. I'd have to see how Bernie Sanders is envisioning his path forward now, because this might show she's a little weak there. But why would you, as Katie pointed out, pick out the very thing that President Obama is most criticized for to make yourself look like him?
Because she can't escape it. I mean, she presided over our rapid withdrawal from Iraq, where we basically just handed the country over to the jihadists, along with $1 billion in weaponry that they're using against our men on the front lines. I mean, this is the greatest failure of an administration in foreign policy in the Middle East in ever. And you look at the Arab Spring that she presided over, Egypt, Libya. You go down the list, Harris. You look what's happening in Afghanistan. This is all the Clinton-Obama foreign policy. And she took the lead, and she takes credit for Libya in her book, Hard Choices. She does. She says, this was my decision. I'm the one that took ownership of that and Benghazi. So she has a lot of questions to answer. We know that she is incompetent, but worst of all, she looked the families of those 4 dead Americans in the eye, and she lied to their face. And there is nothing more despicable than that.
Catherine, real quick before we move on, the way that she got into the fact that we are at the right place where we need to be in our strategy, her contenders, the primary contenders on Saturday night, Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley, were saying that they were criticizing her for backing regime change in places like Libya and Syria. And she countered with those were complex problems and then said the line that everybody's talking about today. So she was trying to pivot.
Right.
Apparently.
Right. I guess that she has to hope that everything's fine because she's shown her record that she's really bad at this stuff. Because of her is why we're in this situation, like you were saying, for so many different reasons. So maybe she really does think it's fine because she really doesn't ever have seemed to have understood what's going on over there. I would like to see her take responsibility for something or answer one question or something. But right now she's just saying, oh, no, it's fine. Oh, no, this and that. Oh, yeah, by the way, Donald Trump's the worst, huh? And that's really all she's doing.
Wow. All right. Well